Okay, this video is called 12 Money Traps Gen X and Millennials Must Avoid for Financial Freedom. This is by Money Talks News. Actually, I gotta take off the sound because YouTube might flag me. So the first one is no retirement savings. Start retirement savings early. Compound interest builds wealth. Yes, it does. Don't rely solely on Social Security like some baby boomers did. I don't know if Gen X will get it, maybe, but definitely not millennials when it comes to Social Security. Social Security is not expected to be around in the next 10 years? Because it's one big pyramid scheme anyway. It's a big transfer of wealth from the young to the old. That's all it is. Let me maximize this real quick. But yeah, it is important to start saving up for retirement. You will retire one day. It's going to happen. Unless you unfortunately die before you retire. But most people will hit the age of retirement. It will come, no matter what. You will have to retire one day. Now, if I were to talk to my younger self or my kids, I would suggest, again, this is not financial advice, I would suggest just getting the habit of taking some money and put into a retirement fund. If you're just starting like 18, just $5 a paycheck, put it into a retirement fund. And if that's easy to do, then bump it up to $15 a month. If you're young, right? Whatever you can do to put into retirement. But again, there's, as you grow up, you realize that money starts, as soon as you get paid, you have to put money into a lot of things, not just retirement, but like investments, your rent, your mortgage, your insurance, your cell phone, your internet. There's a lot of things that requires your monies, and it's frustrating, but retirement should be one of them. And especially when it compounds, it'll be ready for you when you retire, so you're not as scared when you get old and you can't work. Keeping up with the neighbors. Avoid overspending and debt like some baby boomers. Wow, they're really after the baby boomers on this. Live within your means. Budget wisely and practice delayed gratification. This builds long-term financial stability. This is a big problem for a lot of people, is to look impressive, to keep up with appearances. You see your neighbors have a nice car, you want to have a better car type of situation. You want to show off to your friends your new big house. People are just trying to look good and important, right? By terrible spending habits. Now, if I could speak for myself, I don't care what people think of me. I prefer people to look at me as like a bum or something like that. This way they don't bug me for anything. They don't ask anything out of me. Because I don't want to flag oh, I got all this stuff. Because then you start getting people you don't want who are just around you because they want something out of you. And it gets weird. So I'd rather just keep the appearance of oh, I got nothing, and see who really cares about you. This way you're not buying crap you don't need. And then before you notice, you're like, I have so much more expendable income. What should I do with it? Probably invest it, save it for something, whatever. As long as it's not like crap that you're buying all the time just to, impress people? It's usually the wrong people you're trying to impress. Avoiding student loans. Don't ignore student loans like baby boomers did. Well, hold on. Tackle this debt promptly so you can focus on investing and building wealth sooner. My parents didn't go to college, but I had a lot of aunts who did. They're baby boomers. You know what their student loan debt was? It was between $3,000 to $6,000. Today, that is so nothing. That's okay to pay off. It's not like today's generation, like Gen X and Millennials, special Millennials, and Gen Z coming up too. The student loan debt's like $50,000, if not more. Now, you're definitely going to be stuck for a while paying that off, not getting a house, not starting your life. But of course, to the point of this tip they have here, get on top of that student loan debt as fast as possible. You should really look into how much debt do you need to really take to afford the upcoming semester. Are you working enough hours at your part-time job? Are you saving enough money? Are you not blowing your money on, weekend parties or whatnot? I know college is expensive. Believe me, I see it every semester. The tuition costs keep going up. Is it even worth it anymore to get, buried in debt? So when you finally get your bachelor's, you're struggling to find a job that pays $50,000, maybe $40,000. What's the point? This does not financially make sense anymore. It's probably better off making $10,000 less, but you don't have debt. You could probably afford a few more things and then save and have more expendable income. And then by the time you finally, compared to the next person who finally paid off their debt, there's, decades away. While if you invested correctly, you'd be ahead. That's what it's looking like today. No emergency fund. Don't neglect emergency funds like baby boomers. Build a robust emergency fund to create financial security during unexpected challenges. I always tell people to have an emergency fund. I would say, 6 months worth. If you're able to sit down and just go with what things you really need, like your rent, food, maybe some clothing, gas, other essential payments you need, your cell phone, utilities, right? Internet. Understand, like, how can you get by month to month bare minimum? And calculate that times 6 for 6 months, right? I know it's easier said than done, but man, this is like a huge priority because shit always happens. Something always happens. An unexpected bill comes up. Your car breaks down, boom, $600. Your computer breaks, boom, you need a new one, $800 or so. Like something comes up, right? You have to go to the hospital, bam, there's like a $2,500 medical bill or something because you got to get stitches, whatever. Something always happens. It's the inevitable. So if you have an emergency fund, it feels more like an inconvenience to have to dip through that and pay whatever you had to pay versus a crisis where you're like, oh, how am I supposed to pay this off? Because if you have to get into debt, like put it on a credit card, now you're in a bigger hole and it's harder to get out of that situation. The emergency fund, trust me, it will save your ass plenty of times. Trust me, I highly recommend put whatever you can each paycheck and put into a savings called emergency fund. It could be like 10 grand, 20 grand. I know that's a lot of money, but man, it is worth it. It'll help you get through life and progress in your wealth. Reckless investing. Avoid risky investments that hurt baby boomers. Prioritize diversified long-term investments over speculative short-term gains for steady, sustainable growth. This is a pretty good tip. Especially with the stock market and how many public traded companies there are now. There's so many like cheap penny stock companies that no one's heard of. I highly recommend, again, not financial advice, don't get involved in them. They typically lose than they do win. If I were to talk to a 10, 15 year younger version of myself, I would say just invest in companies you know. Any company, look around your house or drive down, look at all the companies that you know, that you see often, who you shop at all the time. Invest in those companies. The products you always buy, invest in those companies. The toothbrush, shampoos, the food, whatever, those companies. Or if you don't even want to think about it, you just want the money to grow, but you don't want to pick individual stocks, there's plenty of portfolio management that you just throw money into and it grows over time. I don't have any of them as a sponsor, but there's plenty of them out there where you just start, as low as $5 to open an account now? And there's no trading fees or anything. It's just portfolio management, wealth management's out there to just put your money in and it grows over time. This is like one of many things you should be doing with your money, right? Emergency fund, regular savings, investing, rent, all that other stuff. Being a know-it-all. Unlike baby boomers, leverage financial advisors and tools to make smart money decisions. Seeking professional guidance improves financial outcomes. Yeah, it goes to the last point I made. There's all these tools available now to grow your wealth. All you have to do is put money into it as much as you can. I know there's a lot of... The thing is, financial advisors out there, there's like two types. There's one that's trying to sell you something. You got to avoid those people. And there's fee-based ones. Those are the ones you really want to talk to, especially if you're like really serious. But for the most part, you don't need a financial advisor until you have accumulated a lot of wealth, right? If you have over 500,000, of course, comment below what you believe. But again, there's plenty of those wealth management portfolios out there that you can open up an account and just throw money in, and they got pretty good returns on a lot of these. Anything that's above 8% year over year is where you need to put your money into. That's not advice, it's a recommendation. If you believe there's others, go for it. I know there's people who solely invest in the S&P 500, it's been coming out with great returns over the years. It's just stuff like that. Thinking you're a flipper. Don't take on unaffordable mortgages or buy homes only as investments like some baby boomers. Be smart about ownership. Don't extend finances. The people who are most rich in real estate are the baby boomers. They're the ones who have multiple investment properties, rent them out to people like you and I, and we pay off the mortgage on that house, right? Of course, the first part says don't take on unaffordable mortgages. Like, yes, I agree to that. And of course, plural mortgages. So if you have a house already and you want to get a second one for an investment one, make sure you can afford it, because there's a lot that goes into a mortgage and a house to make it renter friendly, right? Make sure it's the right neighborhood, good HOA. When you buy it, make sure it's renovated. So you got to put a lot of money into that, where people want to live in it, so you can set a higher rent, and make sure the rent that you're making is much more than that mortgage of that house, right? Like, say your mortgage is like, say $1,500 a month. Yeah, you're gonna want to rent it out for about $2,000 a month. Is that possible? Is your area renting around that amount? If not, then you have to make adjustments or wait or something. I met too many people who got an investment property, like, say, they rent it out for $2,000 a month, but their mortgage is $2,200 a month. So they have to take out of pocket $200 more a month. And trust me, with renters, there's always something that goes on. Hey, the toilet is broken. You have to pay for someone to go out there and fix it. Hey, the washer's broken. You have to pay for someone to go out there. So there's all these other expenses that come out of nowhere. It's not like, oh, you rented it out for $2,000 and your mortgage is, $1,500 a month. You think you're pocketing $500 a month. No, there's taxes. There's unexpected maintenance that comes on. If your HOA requires you to upkeep the lawn, it's probably, your resident is probably not going to upkeep that lawn. You're going to have to hire someone to go out there on occasion to upkeep the lawn. There's just a lot of things that go on. So I don't like this part where it says buy homes only as investments like some baby boomers do. There's baby boomers who are millionaires because of it. Real estate is like one of the most important things to build wealth. Aside from like starting your own business or investing into stocks, real estate's up there. Some people just prefer real estate because they know it best. So, but of course, the last snippet, don't overextend finances. That's very important. Don't start off in the hole and hoping that, within the next 3-5 years, you can get out of that hole and then it starts generating a surplus of revenue, because things always happen. And then before you know, you're just like, this property is not worth it. I have to sell it and take a loss. It becomes a terrible learning experience. Not planning to get old. Prepare for healthcare costs better than baby boomers. Use tools like HSAs and incorporate medical expenses into financial plans. Don't underestimate retirement healthcare costs. Unfortunately, this is true. That's like the number one thing that people will file for bankruptcy is medical bills. I mean, this kind of goes along with your emergency fund. I know there's others that where there's a cash account for medical expenses. I've seen employers provide that. That would probably be helpful, especially if you're someone who is currently sick. You have asthma or something like that. That might be something to take into consideration, because things come up and just out of nowhere, this medical expense costs a lot. And last thing you want to do is get into debt. So it's just a mixture of that plus your emergency fund. You might have to have a bigger emergency fund than you thought, besides living expenses, because you probably have to have a medical one as well. But it's also another one that when you're older, you don't even see it coming. And when you're older, you're taking more visits to see your doctor than you did before. Or out of nowhere, you just get a heart attack. Or there's a tumor in your brain and you faint one day, or just something crazy happens. Life sucks. It works that way. If you could prepare for the worst, have that emergency fund going. Not adapting. Don't get stuck in one career like baby boomers. Invest in new skills and lifelong learning to increase earning potential and adapt to changing job landscapes. I mean, don't get stuck in one career like baby boomers. That's That was the days when there was employer and employee loyalty. For baby boomers, you just one, maybe 2 careers. That's all they needed. As much as I don't like what this is said, it's unfortunately true. Just like I mentioned, there's no employer-employee loyalty anymore. Now you see that you always have to change jobs every 2 years to make more money, to get ahead now. And it's frustrating. It's sad. I wish it wasn't like that. And I know there's a lot of loyal employers out there who's trying to do the best for their employees, but they get mixed up with all the bad employers out there who treat people like nothing, who's willing to fire them like that without a second thought. It's like so inhumane, right? To just fire people, let them go like that. They don't treat them like people. They just treat them like an ends to a means, right? And it sucks to feel like that. Like you were just taken for advantage of, really. Like that's all it meant to you. Like I worked my butt off and the next day I'm fired for what? Because you're downsizing, because you want to increase your company's stock portfolio by 2% or something like that. It's like ridiculous. And it's frustrating. So yeah, always having to learn a new skill, especially in this very rapidly changing times that we live in. Right now it's 2024. It feels so much different than 2020. We have AI. We have all these other things that you have to know and be on top of. Things are always upgrading and improving. There's always a better tool out there that you have to understand and learn how to use it. Because if you don't know, then you're going to be behind. So yeah, I would say always be learning. Always be learning something, right? Just because you finally got that job, be ready to find the next job and new skills and whatnot. Take the current skills you have and how do you improve them? What more can you stack on? Financially inept. Don't delay financial education like baby boomers. Proactively seek financial knowledge to make smart money decisions from the start. Financial literacy is crucial. There's a lot of things to this point. I know we live in an era where the internet's right there in your hand, in your phone, right? So much information. There is just as much good information as there is bad. And it's very hard to distinguish between the two. Now, I've already made some comments about certain investings that I would recommend if I spoke to my younger self or kids. Again, not financial advice. But there's also not just about how to invest your money or use your money, rather, but how to make more money, figure out how to always be making more money, how to increase your skills, how to go out there and get money. If you don't make money, then how are you going to eat? Don't you want to eat? Have that eye of the tiger going on. But also being smart with your spending as well. That's also just as important. Yeah, it's about how much money do you keep at the end of the day. I know plenty of people who make a lot of money, but they don't keep a lot of it as well because they can't help themselves but spend it on stupid crap. That's also very important. There's a lot of things that you really need to look at your bank statements, credit card statements, whatever you use. Go back to the last 2 months and just circle as many things you think or just stupid spending. You'd be shocked at what you've been spending a lot of money on. Like coffee, $6 coffee. I'm trying to keep my voice down because my wife is in the other room and she spends a lot of money on Starbucks. But it's just things like that just cut back on that you don't need. You're gonna live forever. Why are they using the word gonna? That's a terrible slang to put in writing as a professional. Either way, don't overlook life insurance like some baby boomers. Adequate coverage provides financial security for loved ones in case of tragedy. Prioritize life insurance to protect dependents. This last part is very important. Prioritize life insurance to protect dependents. So if you're the only person who brings in the money in the household and you have kids and you have a stay-at-home spouse, I would probably recommend, but not advice, I would recommend life insurance because if you die, then what's your family going to do to make money, to have money coming in? If they solely depend on you for money. It's one of those things to think about. Is it worth having or not? Unless you have this crazy, robust $300,000 emergency fund money for your family to live off of. But then, your spouse has to figure out how to get a new career, going from a stay-at-home wife or husband, rather, it could be either or, to now having to work and provide. It's just a situation that you really have to look into. I know life insurance, it's one of those like another expense, and it's a tough one because sometimes it feels like you're just throwing away money at it. But there's a handful of times where it helps out a lot of families. So it's something to really look into. Not planning for the end. Don't repeat baby boomers' estate planning oversights. Create wills, designate beneficiaries, and plan estates early to ensure smooth asset transition and reduce legal challenges. I've heard so many stories, and I'm sure you do too, or you could ask particular lawyers in this field, how family members who once loved each other so much are willing to fight to the end against their own siblings for certain assets that their parents left behind and did not have a will or a beneficiary or anything. You know, they're all going in, raiding the house and trying to grab as much as they can. And whatever object they put their hand on and someone else puts their hand on it, they fight so much for it. And it's a sad thing. It can be, really. You might be looking at this saying, like, dude, I'm 25. What do I need a will for? You just might. If you have certain assets, you probably just might. It makes it easier for this to go to someone you love. Sometimes it could be the state that takes it all. The state could take your money if they have no one to give it to. So it's important to write down, like, if I were to die today, this is where my money goes to right now. This is where my stock portfolio goes to. This is where my retirement goes to. This is everything, right? This is where my house goes to. Stuff like that. It's important to write it down. The sooner the better. It's just take a day to just write it down and then just get it done through the necessary places where you write a will or designate your beneficiaries. But I think that's the last of this video, right? Yeah, I'm going to assume that's the last. Okay, yeah, that is. So that's the end of it. So please leave a comment, like the video. If there's anything I missed on here, please comment below. I'd like to know. Or if there's any other suggestions out there you have, I'd like to know too. Especially about when it comes to like money stuff. It's one of those things I'm really interested in. So until next time, have a good one. Bye.